Sony has been serious about advancing the audio experience on PlayStation 5 during this console generation. From the Tempest 3D audio tech engine, HRTF profiles, acquiring companies like Audio-Kinetic and Odyssey, and supporting Dolby Atmos, PlayStation has been pushing the envelope in a space that often gets overlooked in the video game industry. And to complement these advancements, the company has released a range of headsets, the Pulse 3D on day one, and then the Pulse Elite. But another attractive option for those that prefer earbuds is the Pulse Explorer. Inside the box, you'll find a handy infographic that breaks down the sync process for the PS5 and connecting to a smartphone via Bluetooth. Right below that is the Pulse Explorer charging case with the earbuds inside. You'll then find your PlayStation Link USB adapter underneath the paper fold on the right, which is Sony's new wireless protocol for the Pulse Elite and the Pulse Explorer. And you'll also find 3 pairs of different sized earbud tips. On the left you have a USB-A to USB-C cable, and underneath that paper partition on the right is your documentation. Unwrapping the Pulse Explorer charging case, you have your USB-C charge port on the right. The case itself has a white plastic cover that slides out to the left, revealing the earbuds sitting on the charging receivers. In the middle is your PlayStation Link sync button. Up close on both the left and right earbud, you'll find a very tiny volume rocker on top and a manual sync button underneath. Now let's move on to sound quality, which right away, I am not an audio expert, I'm not an audiophile, I don't pretend to be, so I'm someone who can normally tell when something sounds very good, very bad, or just okay, and that's kind of where it ends. So going into these, I was not entirely sure how much better or worse they would sound compared to what I've always known, which were just trying to buy nice headphones or earbuds across console, PC, mobile, whatever the case is. I think most people are in the same camp where you just try and buy yourself something nice that sounds very good to you, budget allowing. So if you are in that camp of being a non-audiophile person as well, then you might have a similar experience to me in that these do sound very good initially. In fact, they're amazing, but it's something where over time, across various different gaming sessions, different games, genres, 3D audio games, non-3D audio games, and changing headphones in the moment to see if there is a meaningful difference, and there actually is, because it really does come down to the planar magnetic drivers, where that's a byproduct of Sony's acquisition of the premium headset manufacturer Odyssey, where that is normally reserved for higher-end headphones, but they are pricing this technology down. Most headphones on the market use dynamic drivers, so with planar magnetic drivers, these generally will have less distortion, more accurate resolution at higher volumes, more accurate sound locality, deep bass, and so with the gameplay experiences, you will notice that in terms of locality, it very much is a lot more pronounced in these versus, say, other headphones. If you're looking for a deeper sense of presence, then it's there. Whether that is ambient noises that are around you, like the bustling New York City and Marvel Spider-Man, or maybe a much more isolated setting where there's moments in The Last of Us where you're trying to hear for a clicker or the noises around you if you're playing on grounded mode where you can't see them through walls. The noises are just so much more pronounced, clear, and it really is dynamic in a way where I have not experienced that just yet with other standard headphones. And so if that's what you're looking for, these do have that. As far as deeper bass goes, that was not really the experience, so it's something where beforehand I was daily driving the Sony InZone H9, a very nice premium headset at $300 USD, and those have a very deep, rich bass, and those don't even have access to Sony's EQ presets on the PlayStation 5 Control Center. Only the Pulse 3D, the Pulse Elite, and the Pulse Explorer can do that, and even adjusting the bass on the console itself, that really wasn't matching the bass levels of the Sony InZone H9. So bass-wise, that might be a bit of a disappointment, but in terms of actual presence and accurate resolution at higher volumes, and also less distortion, I would say that has been my experience thus far with a lot of games being played through the Pulse Explorer. Alright, voice chat quality with the Pulse Explorer. Here's how this is probably going to sound to your friends on PSN, where right now, as a test, I'm in a party with myself off 2 consoles, and I'm recording up the console, receiving the voice chat over PSN from the other machine, and so this is what it should sound like to your friends when gaming on PSN. And it's alright, sounds about on par with the standard Pulse 3D. Really, if you care more about gaming online and having your voice chat sound clear, then you're probably going to want to go with something more like the Pulse Elite, where it has a boom mic you can pull out, sounds very clear, concise, and really, whether it's this or any other gaming headset that has a boom mic, that's where it's going to be a lot more preferable for online communication. So the Pulse Explorer will get the job done, but it's not going to be an industry leader in this regard. Now, another important factor to consider here is how you might want to incorporate the Pulse Explorer into your daily lifestyle based on how many devices you want to connect to. Because that is how Sony is trying to sell these, is that you can connect to your PS5, a PlayStation Portal, your phone, get more PS Link adapters, and then that's more consoles, a computer. And so, how does all that play together in terms of trying to jump connections from device to device and also dual device connectivity, which we'll start there. That can only be from your phone and one PS Link device at the same time, where you can have both of those going. The audio output will pipe in at the same time. They will overlap. And so as long as you can make a good use case for that, then it does become quite useful. You can just leave your phone sitting on the table, nothing happening. If a phone call comes in, then it does get piped right into the Pulse Explorer. You can take the phone call. That's very handy. You could also do something where maybe you want to lower the in-game volume, or maybe do it to where you can adjust the game's actual audio settings, just reduce the music volume but keep dialogue and SFX on, then play music from your phone if you want to just easily access your library there instead of using it on the PS5 from Spotify or Apple Music. Whatever kind of preference you have for how you want to do this, you can do it that way. And the dual device setup is actually very handy. I do like it a lot. The only drawback is it is something where you have to manually adjust things if you want to try and get mileage out of it. So there is no option at a software level to have it reduce volume of one device in favor of another. So you do have to be aware of that, but otherwise it can be quite useful. Now, what about moving from one PS Link adapter to another? What's that like? Well, that will depend greatly on where they're plugged in and also in relation to where the other ones are plugged in, because there are connection problems. Now, first off, when it comes to actually moving from one device to another, it can be something where if they are too close together, it's not going to be this intuitive experience where you just start using the other console or your computer and it just auto connects. You'll probably have to, at the very minimum, manually reestablish that connection by having to manually hit the PS Link button on the Explorer themselves, which that's fine. That will normally reestablish the connection, no problem. But sometimes that won't happen, and so the failsafe there is you'll have to do it from the adapter, because the adapter itself is also a PS Link button, and that's a problem because it depends on where you are, right? Because, plugged into a computer, okay, it should be no problem to hit that, but sometimes if you have a tower or something, maybe it's down on the floor, maybe it's on the opposite side of it, so it could just be a pain trying to hit the PS Link adapter. Same for the PS5, you're obviously going to be sitting a decent amount away from it, so you have to get up, if the adapter is plugged into the back, you'll have to hit it from there, and so it's like a minor inconvenience, sure, but if it keeps coming up, which it surely will, then that can be annoying very quickly. So having to reestablish the connection from the adapter is the sticking point, and that will come up often because you're already right next to both adapters anyway, so trying to do it from the PS Link device itself, that it's going to try and speak to both adapters anyway, so, and that depends on if they're both on at the same time, obviously, but it will just greatly depend on your setup. Having said that, the other core issue with the Pulse Explorer is simply connecting in general. And I did not run into this with the Elite because the Explorer you have to worry about two devices, technically, your left and the right side. And I just run into a lot of dropped connections. Either the left goes, the right goes, or once the right goes, I can clearly tell that there's some interference going on. Not sure why, because this was not my mileage with the Elite, but PS5 itself was the most problematic because it was something where if you do have a connected storage device right next to the USB dongle, then that can interfere with the 2.4 gigahertz signal. This is a problem with USB 3.0 devices. So initially I didn't think much of it because, again, the Elite was working anyway, but it was something where playing on PS5, I would have the left go, maybe the right would go, and it would be maybe after an hour of solid gameplay, so no problems for an hour, but then one side would drop, then they would both drop, then I would have to re-establish the connection from the USB adapter on the back, but it became clear that it was probably the USB 3.0 connection from the extended storage device, because these do operate on the 2.4 gigahertz band. So if you do have a wireless signal that is very close by, as in your router is very close to the PS5, or if you've got a bunch of smart plugs that are using 2.4, like that could be the problem. I did not think at the time that could have been the issue, because the Elite was fine the entire way through. So again, the Explorer, you might have to be a bit more mindful of how you've got two that you have to worry about, and I'm assuming that's where the issue was. So again, looking at the Explorer as far as going from PS Link device to PS Link, and also connecting in general, you're going to have to be mindful of where the adapters are and where they are in relation to other signals, and also PS5 itself with a extended storage device that is also connected as well. Now, I will say for the PlayStation Portal, the connection there was very good. No visible audio latency, which that is the caveat. It would be an audio latency thing, since the Portal itself does have latency in general, and that's unavoidable. But in terms of the video signal and the audio being synced up, it worked just fine. And I will also say, this is more of a preference thing, but I prefer the Explorer over the Elite, since the Portal only has two wireless options anyway from Sony's two official headsets. The Explorer is more my jam. I like in-ear earbuds for portable experiences. If we're talking about console, then I like over-ear style headphones anyway. So in that case, I think the Explorer is really a perfect fit for the Portal. Now let's talk about battery life and the charging case. So battery life for the Pulse Explorer, Sony claims 5 hours, and that's where I got close to that, so maybe 4.5 hours, 4:45. I did time it 3 times. It came out very close, but if it was 5 or a little bit over, that's still not going to be enough for a very long gaming session. So at the very minimum, it's probably going to have to go in the charging case at least once, which it does have quick charging, so you'll probably get back at least 1 bar after 10-15 minutes. But if you do want to go for another 4 or 5 hours, then obviously you're going to have to throw that thing in for a full charge, which the charging case itself can get 10 hours. So that's quite low when you consider what else is on the market for wireless earbuds and charging cases. So usually you can see ones that do 20, 25, 30 hours. So yeah, that's pretty low for the Pulse Explorer, especially when you consider how big it is. It's very bulky. And so like the only other thing I had, which I've used for years now, is Apple AirPods. And I've only got a Gen 1 version, but even then it's like so small, it's comical compared to the Explorer. And so for the past few months trying to use the Explorer day in and day out, replacing my AirPods for the time being, I do not feel compelled at all to leave the house with the Explorer. It's just, the case is so big, like it looks dumb and goofy in the pocket. You don't want to sit down with it. It's just, you can actually pocket the AirPods case and presumably many other ones on the market, but with this, I did not feel compelled to leave the house. But otherwise, in the house, I mean, yeah, I enjoyed it for music. I enjoyed it for, again, the Portal or PS5, but actually trying to carry that charging case around, I just don't feel compelled to, and I can't see how many others would. Now, getting into comfort, I did not like these at all initially. When I put them in, I'm like, I don't like this. It's a very tight feeling. Even trying different ear tips, it just, I don't know. It was making a solid connection, so they weren't going to fall out, which is good. But otherwise, it just felt very uncomfortable. I got used to it after a while, but now it's something where I can play for 2.5, 3 hours, and then it gets uncomfortable again, and I want to take them out. So yeah, they can make my ears hurt if I leave them in for a long time, which is not great, but it's something where you just have to try it. What is comfortable for me are, again, AirPods. I can have those in for a very long time, and it's not uncomfortable. But the problem there for some people is they just fall out. The Gen 1 AirPods that I have, right? So they're not the ones that are more in-ear versus the Gen 1 AirPods that kind of sit in that cavity. But yeah, comfort-wise, I think it's going to vary a lot for some people. Other important items to note here is that when playing on PS5, you can mute from the controller, and that's good because you kind of have to anyway. There is no mute button on the Pulse Explorer, so again, you only have the manual mute buttons up top, and then the link button underneath on both sides. With the volume rocker, we can say that you can adjust on PS5, obviously, but when you go over to, say, desktop or your phone, you have to do it from those devices. You can't do it from the Pulse Explorer at that point, so they kind of turn into dead switches, but still something to bear in mind. Also, they are fairly dumb earbuds as well, so you don't have the intuitive feature of taking them out and having it on a software level stop the audio track that's playing, or whatever it is that you're doing that's not going to stop and start. You can't do some kind of double tap with moving over to another track, so it's something where you're going to be doing all the manual adjustments from your device, which in some cases is fine, but in other cases, compared to other earbuds, then that's a drawback. Also, these have what Sony calls is AI-enhanced noise rejection, so it's not actual proper active noise cancellation, and that doesn't seem to make a meaningful difference. It seems like you're going to hear plenty of things outside of your immediate environment. So Sony says they have it, it's there, it's working, but you're pretty much not getting noise cancellation when you consider what the experience is actually like. So final thoughts on the Pulse Explorer. They're not bad, but you do have to ask yourself a lot of questions before they start to make sense. That being, do you need it for a portal? Where are you going to plug in all the USB adapters? Where are they located in proximity to one another? Do you have a USB 3.0 device plugged into your PS5 right next to where the adapter is going to be? Can you plug it into the front? Is that going to bother you? Do you care about the charging case being big or the battery life? Do you care about it not having smart features with taking it out, being able to double tap to move to another song? I mean, there are enough drawbacks to where at the price range that it's in, it doesn't really make sense. Maybe for certain use cases, and so in that situation, it might be a great way to, start playing your games and move around your devices. It really depends on how you answer that questionnaire. So, it can work really well based on that, and also they sound really good. They sound fantastic. So there is a reason to consider them, but you have to work through that questionnaire before they start to make sense, I think. Hopefully that helps. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all in my next video. You take it easy.